A very pleasant good morning to members of the Small Business Association, our colleagues, partners across the MSME ecosystem here in Barbados. Thank you so much for joining us for today's members information session. I'm Dr. Lynette Holder, CEO of the Small Business Association of Barbados. It is my pleasure to moderate this session for us today. Now, if you're new to our platform, let me welcome you to our webinar series. Each month, we organize such an event to address a topic of interest, a topic we believe that is important to the small business community that will help small firms to navigate not only the legislative and policy environment, but the business environment overall. So, today's topic, I'm sure all of us are keen to hear from our subject matter expert today. BiMPay has been launched, Barbados's instant payment system. I'm told it is the first in the Eastern Caribbean. As you could appreciate, it is the topic of interest. Everyone is talking about BiMPay, talking about the merits. Some people even talking about the demerits of BiMPay. And we felt it was important for us to bring a subject matter expert to help us navigate the instant payment system, understand what it is, understand its implications for us in doing business, and help to distill any fears. And this is an educational exercise, so we are hoping to share information that will inform, that will elucidate, that will educate. So we want to thank you so much for being with us today. Remember, our webinar is just about an hour and 10 minutes. And our subject matter expert is already here, prepared and geared up to share his presentation with us today. At the end of the session, we'll invite you please to join us for the question and answer segment. And we do that via our chat feature on this Zoom platform. So you're going to be invited to jot your notes down, jot your questions down. And when we get to the Q&A, place those questions in the chat. The team here will help in navigating those questions to make sure that our presenter today can address your concerns. So please jot your notes down, and in a few moments, you'll get the opportunity to pose those questions. So, instant payment system is launched, is available, and we want to have an appreciation for what does this portend for the small business sector in particular. So today we have our subject matter expert hailing from CIBC Caribbean. And why CIBC Caribbean? You'll appreciate that CIBC was the first to introduce a kind of an instant payment regime as well through its first pay. And there are persons who've already sent in questions, Kent, asking us about the how does first pay now align with BiMPay. So that's going to be one of the first questions that we'll ask you to address after the presentation. But a little bit about Kent. Kent is an experienced banking and payments technology professional with extensive expertise in modernizing payment systems and advancing digital banking capabilities across the Caribbean. He's led and supported the design and implementation of payment solutions that facilitate millions of transactions for consumers, businesses, governments, and financial institutions across the region. And most recently, Kent has played a key role in the implementation of BiMPay for CIBC Caribbean, helping to deliver Barbados's new instant payment system. Obviously passionate about digital innovation, he is committed to helping businesses understand how modern payment systems can improve cash flow, enhance customer experiences, and drive greater operational efficiency. So just a short aspect, a short blurb, if you will, Ken, of your very extensive bio. We are keen, looking forward now to what you have to share with us today. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, let us welcome Kent Emile-Smith, who is the Senior Solutions Designer for Payments and Cards at the CIBC Caribbean, and he's located right here in the Barbados headquarters. Welcome, Kent.
Good morning
Morning.
and welcome everyone. Thank you for taking your time out this morning, and thank you for the interest that you have shared and put forward towards BiMPay. As Dr. Holder would have said, it is the topic of the day, so to speak. And without further ado, I will just launch into my presentation. And I will just put it straight into presentation mode. So we're going to talk today about, what now that BiMPay is launched, what does it mean for us as small businesses? It means many different things, but specifically for small businesses, some of the things we want to focus on is how do you leverage BiMPay to get paid faster? How do you improve your cash flow? And how do you serve your customers better? And now how do you prepare then for digital commerce as we go forward? So why does BiMPay matter to small businesses? So, for small businesses, the lifeblood of any small business is cash flow, right? So being able to have that money for every transaction in your account in real time as opposed to days later is a definite win. Um, so confirming delays in confirming transfers, 'cause as a small business, you perform a good, you either deliver a good or a service, and someone says, "Well, I've transferred you the money," and when you check, you don't necessarily see the money, or they pay you by check, and you have to wait for between 2 and 5 days for that check to clear, or they would have used the old batch payment system, and you still have to wait another day to clear. But the one thing that BiMPay does as an instant payment scheme, as part of an instant payment scheme, is deliver that money to your account in real time. Some of the other things some of the other benefits are um, managing that cash flow during the day, managing and easing your reconciliation at the end of the day. So your sales versus your receipts and cash, helping preparing deposits, etc. So that whole cycle is simplified by BiMPay as being an instant payment system. And then, supplier payments, payroll, inventory, working capital pressures, all those things that small businesses you may face, BiMPay as an instant payment scheme will definitely address those things. And then one other thing as well, and this one might be a little touchy for some now because we, as part of the launch, we may be encountering, some minor teething problems, but being able to match a payment to an invoice or an order to help you obviously reconcile and streamline your business. So let's take it further. So some of the questions you may be asking is like, how is this going to help my business? Is it going to help me get paid faster and improve my cash flow? And I would have spoken to that a little bit before. Does it help me to serve my customers better? And this one, what happens if a payment is delayed or unclear? And, so I'll spend a little time discussing that one because I know that is a topical discussion in and of itself. But also what I want us, once we get past the topical piece, I want us to then, shift our gaze and our focus to try and figure out what further innovations does BiMPay present, or what does it make possible? And then, the question that we should then ask ourselves is, when do we deal with it, right? So BiMPay as an instant payment scheme is made mainly to support instant payments. And what does that mean? It means that from the time a payment is initiated to the time it hits your account and is settled, that round trip time is 10 seconds. So let's picture this, a client walks in and they want to buy a milkshake or something, and you have a QR code, they scan that, they're going to pay $10. From the time they click send to the time that you get a notification and you check your bank account, within 10 seconds, those funds are going to be in your bank account. And for businesses, that's a major, major win. So the practical value is that, like I said, the money gets into your account faster, instantly, and then that helps then to build a foundation for your businesses, how you structure your business activities going forward. And once it is in and settled and we are over the teething phase, you can think less about the banking part of it, right? You can think less about, am I going to get my money? How am I going to, how am I going to be sure that the money is actually there, etc. You can actually stop thinking about the banking and infrastructure side of it and focus more then on your business. So one of the things, so we've heard a lot about BiMPay in the media, social media. There have been lots of comments and commentaries about BiMPay. So let me just, first thing, I just want to share what BiMPay is. So BiMPay actually has three aspects or three facets to it. So first and foremost, it's the rail. And when we say the rail, this is the mechanism by which funds actually flow from the sender via their financial institution to the receiver's financial institution to the receiver's account. So if John Doe is paying Mary Jane, and John Doe banks with CIBC, and Mary Jane banks with Scotia or RBC or one of the credit unions, the rail is what facilitates moving the money from CIBC via the BiMPay rail to the recipient's bank and their bank account. The second aspect of BiMPay is BiMPay provides an e-wallet. And what that e-wallet does, it creates digital access to the BiMPay rail. So many banks, CIBC included, have built facilities or features into their mobile apps to facilitate all of the BiMPay functionality. So, but not all of the financial institutions necessarily took that approach. So BiMPay e-wallet allows for financial institutions who either desire not to develop their own mobile app or to give their clients, if their clients so decide that they want to use the e-wallet versus the bank's native app, that it gives that functionality. And the central bank has provided this as what they call a common good to allow anyone who wants to access the BiMPay facilities, whether or not their bank provides it, to be able to do so in a simple and digital manner. And number three, BiMPay has what they term as overlay services, or what we like to view or discuss as call them as value-added services. So what these value-added services do then is, sitting on top of the BiMPay rail, it provides other features and facilities like QR code payments, alias payments, and then allows you to build then business services on top of those. So I will go into those in a bit more detail later, but I just wanted to differentiate it, because when we hear BiMPay, a lot of the times, most people see the app as BiMPay, but the app is just one part of the overall BiMPay ecosystem. So like I said, it's a rail, it has a wallet, and it also has overlay or value-added services that it facilitates. So I talked about the rail before and just now in the introduction. So in most day-to-day operations, most users or businesses are not going to see the rail. If you think about construction, when you're building a house and you put down the foundation, once the walls go up, you don't see the foundation anymore, but the foundation is there and it's required to keep that wall, that house or structure up and make sure that it's solid. So that's what the rail is. The rail is there to facilitate the movement of money. Some people refer to it as, a train. Think of it as a money train moving money from one station to another. Or some people think of it as plumbing, right? Where your plumbing moves water from one location to another. So that's the rail, right? So you're not going to see the rail, but if the rail stops working, then you will know. Like I said about the wallet earlier in introduction as well, it is an option to the bank's existing mobile apps, and it is free for any bank's clients to use as they see fit. And it does allow you to link your existing bank account at one of the participating financial institutions, so that you can then use that bank account or use those bank accounts that you have linked to then send funds, etc., or to do different transactions. And I'll just take a second here just to explain. So there have been lots of questions, asking, do I need a bank account to be able to use the BiMPay wallet? And the answer is yes and no. So yes, you must have a bank account, but there is an option provided by some financial institutions to, if you do not have a bank account, you can then register for a bank account with that financial institution. So not unfortunately, as it stands right now, not all financial institutions are offering that service where you can actually register for a bank account via the BiMPay wallet. But for those who do, you can select that particular financial institution, and you can request to open a bank account, and that's all supported within the BiMPay e-wallet flow. So one flow, like I said, when you download the wallet and it asks you, do you have a bank account, or do you want to link to an existing bank account? If you say, I don't have a bank account, you then go down one path or one journey to say, okay, I want to onboard or open an account with a particular financial institution that supports it today. Or the typical journey that we have seen is, most users are saying, I want to link my existing bank account to my BiMPay wallet. So picture a CIBC client who downloads this wallet and they say, I want to link my bank account. They will go in, they will then, it will then request them to enter a token. To receive a token, you have to have the CIBC mobile app or your CIBC online banking. You then go and you say, okay, I want to link my checking account. And when you say I want to link my checking account to my BiMPay wallet, you then say I want to generate a token. Once you generate that token, you copy that token from the mobile app, CIBC mobile app, paste it into the BiMPay wallet app, and then that then is a secure way of ensuring that only you who are logged into your CIBC app, only you who has access to your CIBC account can generate that secure token, which is then used then to securely link your account to your BiMPay wallet. And so I just wanted to spend a little time there just to, walk through that, just to say, you do need a bank account at the end of the day. And the process is designed to be very secure. So yeah, one question might be, so how does the wallet help you as a business user? So that allows anyone coming into your establishment, if you are sitting as a BiMPay merchant on the BiMPay network right now, you have a BiMPay QR code that represents your account, or you use one of the other overlay services, and I'll talk about those in a bit. You can then, similar to how CIBC FirstPay works, where you have a FirstPay QR code and someone else with FirstPay can scan it, pulls up your details, they enter the amount, they press submit, and then you get notification that that money is in your account. Having you supporting having the BiMPay wallet as a merchant allows you then to have a QR code if your bank does not provide that via their mobile app. If your bank already does, like CIBC does, then you have a choice. You can either use the BiMPay app for the QR code, or use the CIBC app for their QR code, and so on. So just wanted to talk about that a bit. What are these overlay services? So like I said, these are primarily QR code payments. They're also aliases, and aliases are a way of sending and receiving payments without necessarily handing out your account number. So in the traditional world, or instant payment world, you would have had to have given somebody your name, your account number, your branch, the branch of your account, and then your bank, the branch, and the account number, plus your name for them to set you up as a payee or a recipient to be able to receive funds from them. With an alias, you get to link your email address, your cell phone number. Some cases allow them, some financial institutions allow you to use a nickname or even similar handles to your social media handles, etc. It so you don't have to necessarily divulge your banking information, which is considered obviously private. You can then say, hey, send me, at John Doe at John Doe at whatever 123, and that's your particular nickname, and you have that registered within BiMPay, the BiMPay alias system or the proxy system, and you can take payments that way. So that's one use case for aliases. Request to pay, and this is going to be an interesting one for businesses, because this is where now you get to request money from someone who's going to pay you, just to make sure that you get funds. So like I said earlier, you're operating a business. Somebody comes in and they want to purchase a good from you. You can either have your static QR code, so they scan that, they put in the amount, and they send it to you. Another aspect of that is request to pay, where you can send a request to pay to that person who wishes to pay you. And that request to pay says, hey, ABC small business is requesting $50 from John Doe, and it could be for, let's say, t-shirt, right? And that request to pay service, or that request to pay aspect, allows that to happen fairly seamlessly. As the recipient, you receive, a notification on your app, and then once you click accept, that money then gets sent to the small business account instantly. So I'll move on from there. So I just walked through that process there, basically how it works. You choose how you're going to pay, you confirm the amount, and then payment moves. It goes through, like I said, along the rail, and then you confirm, and then that's it. So I did speak just now about aliases and QR code payments. So this is, just visually to see what it allows us to do. So like I said, you don't need to share your private details, but you can then, for aliases, you can send and receive payments without that. So I just want to talk a bit, just for a few seconds, about some examples near to us. So Brazil's Pix is one of the greatest success stories when it comes to instant payments. And in Brazil, they've seen a massive uptake in instant payments. In some cases, card transactions have declined, while instant payment transactions have increased considerably. And one of the drivers for that is that because the government was instrumental in pushing BiMPay, not BiMPay, sorry, Pix, and making it so easily accessible that there's a joke that says that even beggars actually have Pix set up so they can receive money when they're begging. So you don't longer need to give them cash. They actually have Pix set up so they can receive money if they so need it. And these are some stats here as well from other instant payments implementations across the globe. So UPI, which is India's United Payments Interface, the government as well played a major role in helping to putting incentives in place to facilitate the growth of UPI and the acceptance of UPI over cash. So you've seen where QR codes grew by 15% last year alone, and volumes grew on the UPI network grew by 33% last year alone. And in UK, the faster payments network there, so the good thing about these instant payment systems is that they're up 365 days a year, right? So 24 by 7 by 365. And the only time they're down is if it's scheduled maintenance or there's a major issue either with the one of the finance institutions or the service provider. But the resilience around how it's built is meant to ensure that it stays up, 99.9% of the time. So touched on these before as well, but just a small illustration here. So you get your payments faster. This means that you get your money into your account quicker, so that cash flow is less of an issue, right? Cash flow means that a service or a good that you have given, that you have received money for, that money is no longer just a transaction in your till or your point of sale system. That's also money sitting in your account waiting to be reconciled at the end of your day. And this means less chasing up for money and fewer delays between you being able to sell something and being able to use the money. Yeah. And one of the examples is, so you're operating a corner shop and you are taking, you have up your BiMPay QR code and you are taking payments via QR code, for goods and services people come to buy. And at the same time, the delivery truck comes, right? You no longer have to wonder if you have enough money in your till to pay, or in your bank account to pay for that delivery. So once you've been taking those payments via BiMPay, using QR codes, using aliases, using any of the services that BiMPay provides as an instant payment scheme, you can then make a payment. And the win-win here would be if the delivery company is also using BiMPay as a method of payment. So you're taking sales, cash is coming into your account instantly using BiMPay, and then you can then use your bank's app or BiMPay wallet, whichever one you so choose, to then make the payment to the delivery company for any further goods that they would have been delivered to you. So end to end, a much clearer and easier process, rather than dipping into funds outside of what should be considered working capital. Just spoke about this a little bit. So, the timing of cash receipts and receipt of inventory, that whole supply chain cycle is definitely far more improved, and we can actually then improve there as well. One of the things that BiMPay will allow us to do is to provide the wherewithal, and I want to choose my words carefully. It provides the wherewithal for micro and small businesses to then start to access capital. And here's why I say that, because if you're a cash-driven business and you're not necessarily disciplined at keeping records, having projections or having transaction activities, transaction flows that you have recorded is a bit of a challenge. However, you're now using BiMPay. So let's say, and let's do an easy one. Somebody who started out as a first pay merchant, so they operate a small business and they've been taking payments using first pay. Well, that represents, let's say, maybe 50 to 60% of their businesses. With the launch of BiMPay now, they can now facilitate digital payments in real time from both first pay and BiMPay clients. So it means that anybody, any of the banks in Barbados and the 3 major credit unions that are signed on as participants to BiMPay, you can now take payments from them, thereby reducing your cash intake and increasing your bank transaction activity, so that after a period and you decide you want to expand, grow, some banks are willing to then sit and work with you, taking a look at your transaction activity. They can see all the inflows, all of the outflows, and then that they can actually help work on projections, which then means that you can those projections can then translate into something that's tangible in accessing capital, right? So just opportunities that those present. And it helps you to serve your customers far better, right? Because if you're able to, if a customer is able to pay you in real time, you get acknowledgement in real time, and then you provide that confirmation to the client in real time. That's a net win-win-win all around, right? So especially if you do a request for payment. So you do what we call a fast request to payment. Just like a credit card transaction happens in seconds, that fast request to pay, you say, okay, I need you to pay me X amount for this particular product. They get a notification on their app within a second or two. They accept within a second or two, and you then get confirmation that the money is in your account. And that whole cycle is a far more efficient and pleasurable experience, right? And I spoke to the business record keeping before. So I would have touched on some of these examples for everyday business scenarios. One of the most popular ones that we see is for merchants. I've gone to a few, been to Haman's Market incidentally, sorry, and I was pleasantly impressed with the number of first pay clients, or first pay, what we call as first pay merchants there. So I'm just seeing that with the launch of BiMPay now, we can have just about every merchant at Haman's or any of these marketplaces, Haman's, Brighton, any of these marketplaces that pop up, right? Or whether it be Cheapside or Oystons, the fish market, wherever. They can have these, have these laminated QR codes printed, and they can either take cash or they can take instant payments. So it is no longer somebody saying, oh, shoot, I don't have any cash. You can still make sure that you get that sale. And this goes for person who washes cars, sells coconuts, nail techs, beauticians, barbers, everybody, etc. And there was one scenario, and this is a real life scenario that somebody actually shared with me, and I'll just take a few seconds to share it. And beautician, she would have a booking system, and her booking system says that if you don't pay the deposit by at least 24 hours in advance, your appointment will be canceled. So she would have started out using First Pay, but with the launch of BiMPay, no, she's actually now incorporating that into her business. So she will, her appointment system, she will then say, okay, look up her appointments for the following day. And if the deposits aren't there, she will send a request to pay, asking you to make the necessary payment for, as a deposit. And if that deposit does not come in by start of business the following day, when your appointment is scheduled, your appointment gets canceled. So just think of a scenario where that entire process now gets automated, because we now have fintechs and other companies now entering the market, which integrates her booking and scheduling system with her point of sale system with our payment system. And similarly, online sellers. So you can send a QR code or request a payment. Or if you're operating, in an IG store or something, or some other store online via social media, you can send payment links either via, IG message or via WhatsApp Messenger. So somebody purchases something, you send them a link, they get a link, and they can click on that link, and that link then allows them to then initiate a payment back to you for that good or service. You get confirmation of the money in your account, and you release said good or service. So that no longer needs to take days. That can take seconds or minutes. So net, a better client experience, a better business experience all around. And similar for a contractor, for contractors, it's all about the stage drawdowns and what work we need to accomplish today or this week, and making sure that money is in their account so they can purchase materials on behalf of the client, execute the work, as well as pay the workmen, on time, etc. So that entire cycle is now shortened and made far more efficient with the launch of BiMPay and leveraging the facilities that BiMPay provides. So I touched on some of these already, but what opportunities does BiMPay create? So like I said, digital payment at the point of sale. And one of the things that, is going to be interesting is to see how small businesses actually leverage this. I'm actually keen to see and support, as a member of CIBC, how we can help some of our small businesses take advantage of this. So QR payments, so signs and posters at the point of sale to facilitate that. Payment links, as I mentioned to before, faster supplier and contractor payments. No longer, you want to, going to order some goods or materials. No longer have to wait for days for that to clear before the materials can be delivered to you as a contractor. You make that payment, confirmations in real time, delivery can be same day, right? So that makes a huge difference. And then, like I spoke to before, payment confirmation for WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, or payment websites. So I know we're getting into getting down into the presentation, but I wanted to take some time because this particular topic has caused much concern, and rightfully so, in the market. And this is, why would a payment be delayed? And especially if prior to BiMPay, you were getting your payments coming into your account without any issues. So, number one reason for payments not reaching the recipients within the time as expected is incorrect recipient details. And what I say by incorrect recipient details, here's a real scenario. As you know, there have been some changes in the banking landscape in Barbados over the last few years. So changes, I mean acquisitions, mergers, bank closures or branch closures, etc. So let's say you banked with a particular bank and you open your account, let's say today, but when a payment came into to your account at Bank A, Bank B would receive that, and you be in the background and post it to your account. And it wasn't that there was anything undue about it. What they were trying to do is to ensure that whatever monies came into you got to your account and as quickly as possible. But one of the downsides to that is, without feeding that information back to whoever is sending the payment, then it means that every time a payment comes in to you at Bank A, at Bank A, so Bank A no longer exists. Bank B has to do the update and so on. So that's going on for years. So in an instant payment scheme now, as you can appreciate, that round trip time or that lifetime of a payment is 10 seconds. So if Bank A no longer exists and you attempt to send a payment to Bank A at branch 12345 at Bank A to account 123456, and that no longer exists, that's going to automatically reject. So what the banks have been working on to do as they see these things is reaching out to each other. So case in point, someone from CIBC sends a payment to somebody at RBC and it rejects. On a daily basis, what the banks are working, the teams are in the background doing is each bank will exchange their rejects with the other, and then they attempt to make those updates in the background or reach out to the clients. And so if I at CIBC have a recipient set up in my online and mobile banking, and someone is going to reach out to me to say, hey, We noticed that you attempted to send a payment to Mary Jane at RBC. However, it was rejected because of the incorrect information. Here's the correct information that we received from RBC. Please update your recipient details so that next time you try it, it works. So that is, in a nutshell, the reason for majority of the rejects that we've been seeing. And it obviously gets exacerbated and it gets magnified more around payroll time or pension payments, etc. And payrolls largely because um, if ABC Inc. is paying John Doe at CIBC, and CIBC has been correcting this information over the years and not feeding that back to ABC Inc. Or they have been feeding it back to ABC Inc. and telling ABC Inc. you need to correct this information because the receiving bank is going to reject it. But ABC Inc. either doesn't do it or hasn't had a chance to do it. Then every time they do a payroll run, the same account information gets sent. And so that's, so what's been happening now is that all the banks are also working with their corporate clients. They're meeting daily with the central bank as well, but they're primarily working with their corporate clients, primarily working with their retail small business clients who have payees or recipients set up within their online and mobile banking to make sure that they get the information correct. So what's the best thing that we can do as users, as participants within BiMPay, is to ensure that we give whoever is sending us money the correct information. So correct account number, correct name, correct bank, correct branch. And once that entire process is followed, then 99.9% of payments should go through and not be rejected for incorrect details. Okay, so I just want to spend a little time there. And like I said, confirming your payment information is critical to avoid payment problems. And then for businesses, making sure that our clients use correct payment reference information because they as an instant payment network, BiMPay allows you to not just capture the name, but a reason for the payment or a reference number, so you can then link the payment from John Doe, because John Doe may have made 3 payments to you, but you need to determine each of these payments, what it applies to. So having that reference information is going to be critical. And, being able to reconcile on a daily basis is going to be critical. And you don't have to rely on screenshots anymore, right? Because you will get a notification whether you're using the BiMPay app or whether you're using the bank's own mobile apps, that a payment has been credited to your account. So if something does go wrong, what do? The first thing you do is check your transaction history. So if you're sending a payment to someone and they say they didn't get it, check your transaction history, because it should tell you whether it was successful, whether it was rejected, and it may even say it's pending. If it's pending, that's usually meaning that there's some issue somewhere within the sender and the receiver. And that's where then, you can contact, the contact centers and have the contact centers then reach out to the other banks to then start some sort of investigation as to what happened, etc. Like I said, confirming names, amounts, references, get transaction details or reference numbers for any investigation and keep that handy. And then, any communication with any persons, making sure that you have that documented. And like I said before, contact your financial institution. We are here to help. So I touched on this before, but just to reiterate, some of the future innovations that BiMPay will facilitate as an instant payment scheme, and digital invoices. So for instance, being able to do it as part of a request to pay with an invoice embedded within, a request to pay link or a request to pay QR code. You can actually you embed within that QR code a whole bunch of information in addition to the company name, an invoice number, what the invoice is for, the amount, etc. So that type of digital invoicing, and so being able to then link your point of sale or your customer relationship management system or your inventory management system to your payment system, so that there's a seamless integration between when you generate an invoice, it then generates a dynamic, what we call a dynamic QR code with all the information embedded within it. Somebody receives it, they're able to scan it if it's a QR code, or they're able to click open the link if it's a link payment and remit those funds to you. And so you don't then have to worry about what the payment is for, etc. That whole process will be automated, etc. So, like I said, faster collections, fewer overdue invoices, and less chasing up to try and get your money. And some of the other features that it will support as well, subscriptions, so like gym memberships, club memberships, cleaning services, anywhere you have a recurring payment or a recurring service that happens, on a particular schedule, being able to link your systems to BiMPay, leveraging the overlay services that BiMPay provides, particularly request to pay, etc. Those makes those things not just possible, but it makes it relatively easy once you get past the integration, and there's tremendous upside to that. Social commerce, so improving sales and commerce on social media, etc. Definitely one of the things that BiMPay will facilitate. And then like I said, local vendor platforms. So this is where we're gonna, and I would expect to see lots of activity within the coming months. And where you've got fintechs and other persons coming into the market and just offering platforms and services for businesses to then leverage. And like I said, QR code payments. So should you wait? No, I think as small businesses, we need to, while we obviously monitor to see how, some of the issues related to BiMPay's launch, but those are just teething issues. There are no underlying systemic issues that we have seen. But I think you need to be asking yourself these questions now, taking a look at business and how can you capitalize on this and build your future business on this. And this is just a checklist that we're going to leave you with. But your banks and FIs, financial institutions that are supporting your businesses today, are keen to help drive innovation and modernization of the payments. So reach out and contact your relationship managers, your corporate managers. And if you don't have one, then I know a good bank that you can contact and to help you get that journey started. So with that said, I thank you and open it up for questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Kent, for the presentation. Let me say to those who may have joined us a bit late that you've been listening to Kent Emile-Smith, who is the Senior Solutions Designer responsible for payments and cards at CIBC Caribbean and was the team lead in preparing the CIBC Bank for BiMPay here in Barbados. So he's well versed in instant payments, etc. Kent, we have a number of questions. I see about 14 questions here. Some of them, I believe, have been answered along the way. So we'll dive right into it. But let me remind persons who may have joined late that the session has been recorded, as is the case with all of our webinars. And you'll be able to go on our YouTube channel and our website momentarily to review this. Also, we will share the PowerPoint presentation via our email blast to our members so that you can go through the presentation as well. Okay, so Ken, I'm going to begin where you left off because at the end of it, you address what I consider to be the elephant in the room. The fact is, after the launch on June 12th, as one person commented on a social media platform that I saw, they said all hell broke loose. Okay, so after the launch, there've been a whole host of consumers unable to make payments, payrolls not going through, and all such like. And you mentioned just now that a key contributor to that was the data, the information maybe not being shared. For example, if I had a RBTT account, which I did have, by the way,
Uh-huh.
that RBTT account had a particular code, but because, the bank would receive information, they know it's RBTT and they could apply it accordingly. But
Yeah.
now that interface is not happening because
Yeah.
we've removed the 2 to 5 days transaction time to 10 seconds. So if you're gonna have a 10-second payment, then everything got
Mhm.
to be correct. All
True.
systems correct, have to be functioning appropriately. And so I wonder, why didn't we spend a bit more time working on that aspect of it to make sure that these kinks were sorted out? It seems as if we launched and we're now at the back end telling consumers, oops, these problems could possibly occur. Why didn't we spend more time, addressing those problems?
Great question, and a fair question as well. And hindsight is 2020, to be honest. As we were preparing for this, because and you would know that we had a real-time payment system before, but that had a 90-second window to respond. So it's not that you could correct it, but a lot of the banks actually had to build brand new systems for this, for BiMPay, because what we had built for the real-time payment system would not work with this BiMPay implementation. So some of the challenges were making sure that on day one that we could actually send and receive transactions. So a lot of time was spent testing to make sure that the rail was working, that the facilities were indeed operational. And in hindsight, we expected that, based on our experience with RTP, that things would not have been as bad as they were. But in hindsight, in listening to some of the other representatives from some of the other banks and looking back on it, the focus was on making sure that the technology worked. And I think we definitely, if we had to do it all over again, we would have to either allocate more time for that change, what we consider the change management or the people change portion of it. Because it's one thing for the technology to work, sorry, but if the people are impacted negatively, then it's kind of hard to say, well, the project was a success if the people who are supposed to be using it are not necessarily reaping the success of that. So
Of it, correct.
hindsight is
Correct.
2020, but yeah.
Yes, and I say I opine that people are the most important assets and aspects of any change management system. But
Mhm.
let's go to Graham. Graham is asking about corporate BiMPay app. I'm not so sure there's such a thing. Is there a corporate BiMPay app that we're supposed to be aware of?
No. So
Okay.
if there is, that would be announced by the central bank, because the
Yeah.
BiMPay app itself is the central bank's app.
It's a central bank, right? So I'm not aware of any corporate BiMPay app, Graham. And how does a cashier know that a transaction has been completed in the correct value? That was a second question I'm seeing here.
So assuming that the cashier is using either their bank's app or the
Hmm.
BiMPay app to receive that payment. So like I said, let's say it's done via QR code. And so she puts up the QR code, person scans it, you will get real-time notification via the app that the payment has been received. So,
Right.
and you should get a summary saying you've received the payment from John Doe in the amount of, $10.23.
Right. Okay. So there was
Yeah.
another question about the QR code. I think you've addressed it. Where someone is asking if that could be printed. I think you mentioned that
Yes.
they can, vendors, small business persons, you can print the QR code and have it there. You can laminate it and have it there. That person
Yep.
can scan as they come to do business with you. Correct?
Yes, that is
Yes.
that is the
Good.
case, and we stay tuned. You may see something from CIBC on their
Mhm.
first, not just their first pay QR codes, but
Mhm.
first pay plus. First pay plus
Right.
is where we bundle our BIM services under the first pay plus umbrella. So stay tuned. You may see
Right.
something from us and
So,
others.
so what's the issue with first pay, Ken? The compatibility with first pay. I'm getting queries from persons saying, well, we've been
Mhm.
using first pay from the time it was launched. Since BiMPay now, we're having challenges using first pay. What are the issues there?
There are no issues with first pay. what issues may arise is attempting to use a first pay QR code for a BiMPay transaction. So
Mhm.
BiMPay has its own specific QR codes.
Mhm.
And because we had first pay first, we we decided to keep first pay QR codes separate. And then first pay plus or BiMPay QR codes is where those are two separate QR codes. So within the CIBC app, for instance, you can either still generate your first pay QR code, or you can generate a first pay plus QR code, right?
Mhm.
But I think
Mhm.
if anybody's experiencing any challenges, and if it's something larger than that, I don't mind having a chat with them. But it may be where somebody is attempting to use a first pay QR code for a
Mhm.
BIMPay
For a
transaction. They're not
BiMPay
compatible.
transaction. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if you link your bank account to the e-wallet, Gene is asking, do you have to relink it each time you want to make a payment, or does it
No,
stay? Okay,
it
so it
stays there.
stays linked. You link it one time and that's
Yep.
it. Okay.
Yes.
And I think you also addressed the point about how do persons know that the transaction has been made. That reference number is important
Hmm.
when you're reconciling. So I think persons need to get into the habit now of documenting that reference number
Yes.
so that they can stay on top of those payments and be able to reconcile. I like the idea that
Hmm.
one of the features is the reconciliation of payments. I
Yeah.
mean, not every accountant would appreciate that because that's minimizing some work for the accountants. But I like the idea that you can use the platform to produce statements
Yeah.
and reconciliation of your accounts. I think that's definitely a positive and a plus for the small business sector. I would opine.
Yeah. I will just make one plug there. There's in some cases that is not uniform today, but the
Mhm.
banks are actually working to standardize that now. So within the coming couple of weeks, I would think you will now see a
Mhm.
standardization where the name is always present instead of the bank who's sending the money, and then also indicating what it is for, et cetera, et cetera. So then to make sure that that reconciliation process is seamless.
Okay. Here's another question. What's the transaction cost to businesses? I've been monitoring the governor's presentations on this, trying to get a sense, of the cost. I'm hearing there's no cost for consumers, but businesses may have to pay. What is the transaction cost for the
So
business?
Right. So that has not been decided as yet. The central bank has indicated to the banks that they're free to submit their proposals to the central bank for review and approval. So that process is that's still ongoing, where the banks are taking a look at what costs are going to be there. But the one guidance from the central bank says that for micro and small businesses, there needs to be, we can't treat micro and small businesses the same way we
Mhm.
treat large corporates, right? Or even
Yeah,
medium-sized
agreed.
businesses. So it's not going to be a
Agreed.
one size fits all.
Agreed. And we won't have that, right? We prepare to march if it comes to that. Okay. But you're right. We can't treat micro and small businesses as we would the large firms. Let's keep that top of mind when we're
Yeah,
talking about fees
yeah,
for this service.
for sure.
All right. So another question here from Denise. If one links your checking account or business account, what type of security can you be confident will be there?
So, based couple of things happened as part of this BIMPay rollout, and this, I'm speaking specifically for CIBC now. For any new initiative like this, we go through a rigorous, what we call a threat risk assessment review. So we review our own changes to our app, our infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. And the central bank, as part of this overall BIMPay initiative, they shared their security assessment and review documents with all of the banks as well, and our security teams would have reviewed it, and they would have come away with a certain degree of comfort that the required level of security is in place. So that's on the overall system, but for the linking specifically, because you can only get a token to link your account once you are logged into your mobile app. So if only you have access to your mobile app, then only
Mm-hmm.
you can get access to generate a token to your account. And similarly, if you are registered to use your BiMPay wallet, that the only common thing between our mobile app and the BiMPay wallet is you. So once you're not compromised as an individual, you
Mm-hmm.
copying that token, that secure token, into the wallet and linking that, that is a relatively secure process.
Right. Now you mentioned a few success stories with instant payments, Brazil, India, UK. I'm
Mhm.
concerned about cybersecurity issues and security overall. Have any
Yeah.
of these reported any hacks, any problems with security?
With to the networks itself,
The
no,
networks, yes, yes, the real.
yeah, to the rail themselves, not to the best of my knowledge.
Mm, okay.
So not
All
to the
right.
best. There have been attempts and so on, but what typically tends to happen is that one of the participants may get compromised, and then from there,
Mm,
then action needs to be taken then to firewall off the rest of the rail or the rest of the participants.
okay. But so there have been examples when one of the participants was hacked.
Yeah,
Mm.
or compromised. Yeah,
A compromise, yes,
and,
yes.
and we've had that here in Barbados too with the old
But yeah,
rail.
we know, we've had several hacks of our financial institutions. Yeah,
Well, I can't say
yeah.
several. I'm not aware of several.
Well, our session is recorded here, so I'm not going to call them out for you. But there have been several banks and credit unions. So hey, come on. But you'll appreciate that consumers will always be concerned about security issues.
Yeah,
And so the banking partner needs to, in their communication, their public relations and their overall messaging, continue to assure persons
yeah.
and give them the confidence that their transactions are safe. All
Yeah.
right. So
And
fintech. You talked about fintech. Sorry, go ahead.
one key thing there, but one key thing, because we're more dependent now on our devices and our
Mm-hmm.
computers for commerce and commercial activities, there are usually the easiest attack vector for any compromise. So ensuring that your phones are up to date with security patches, your computers, etc., as well, and staying away from
Mm-hmm.
dodgy websites or yeah,
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you mentioned fintechs, and there's obviously opportunities now for fintechs to, come into the market, come into the space, and offer services and so on. And I have an
mhm,
interesting question here from Tennyson, who says that he's developed the this invoicing, quotation, and expense tracking application.
right,
And he's wondering, would something like this be allowed by the BiMPay, well, maybe the central bank, but by BiMPay to be included in the ecosystem, so that he can provide services, obviously to small businesses in particular. Where we
yeah,
at now with these kinds of services and these kinds of opportunities to be included in the overall service offering.
sure. So according to the roadmap that the central bank has shared with the banks, BiMPay is going to be rolled out in three phases. So we know just phase one is just we're still in phase one. Phase two is where they're going to bring on more government institutions, and phase three then is where they then open up the then to allow fintechs and other financial institutions to join. So it's within phase three then that those types of opportunities will then start to manifest and become a reality. So
Right.
stay tuned from for any pronouncement from the central bank, and I'm sure similar to how they would have shared technical specifications, documentation, etc. I think that the fintechs who are interested will have to register with the central bank, and then once
Mm-hmm.
they're registered, vetted, etc., then once they're brought into the overall circle, then they would then get access to what is required to then integrate their planned solutions with the overall BiMPay ecosystem.
Right. Okay. So those third party providers you're suggesting they be included in phase three of the rollout,
According to what we've been
around there,
told so far.
according to the central bank's
Yeah,
time frame. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So Andrew is asking, can I open an account to facilitate BiMPay only transactions, or will other accounts be linked to this account?
So there's no such thing as a BiMPay only account. Similar to
Mm-hmm.
we've had people come into CIBC said, I want to open a first pay account. It is a regular account that you can then use for BiMPay or a first pay transaction. So if you want to have an account that you dedicate to BiMPay transactions, then you can then just open an account and link that account. If you're going to be using the wallet, link that account to your wallet, or that's the account that you would then share with everyone for receiving payments or sending payments from that account. If you wanted to like
Mm-hmm.
pretty much do your own firewalling off, so okay, these are my other accounts, but this is my dedicated BiMPay account. So there's no dedicated BiMPay account within the banking system in terms of a product offering, but you can create an account and use that for your own purposes.
Okay. An interesting question here, Ken. This person is asking, in a situation where the payment portal has multiple names for a bank, but is using the BiMPay rail, is there any risk? And if there is, what's the risk? For example, government easy pay has some banks as CIBC and some as FCIB, depending
Right.
on the branch.
Yeah. There should be no risk. The only risk that I can see at the moment would be whether or not your payment gets rejected.
Mm,
But at the end of the day, the name is less important than the actual banking identifiers. So within the BiMPay network, sorry, um, the SWIFT identifier for each bank is used as a primary identifier, and then the bank branch, and then so that combination of the SWIFT identifier and the bank number and the bank branch, that is what's key. So once in the background, regardless of the name, those things are accurate, the payment should still flow through, and you shouldn't have to worry about whether it goes to the incorrect bank, etc. It will
mm.
more likely, the worst that will happen is that it should just reject.
Right. Okay. What was the limit on the amount? Is there a limit that can be transferred?
Via the BiMPay rail, the maximum amount is $500,000 per transaction.
But that don't,
But
that
that's
don't that don't apply to us.
but that's subject to your banks, because each bank then obviously sets limits at their channels based on the category of users. So retail users, small businesses, large corporates, etc. They will have different limits set up.
Right. Okay.
Uh, and then I think on the wallet side, again, the maximum limit for a wallet transaction is $50,000. But then again, the bank still set limits for each of those as well.
But there you go. I mean, come on. Let's have a follow-up to this now, because the bank, the bank may have $1,500 credit union, $1,000, $2,000 as daily limits for
Yeah.
their customers. I mean, BiMPay is offering a lot more. So you're saying that we are really still bound by our individual financial institutions' rules and regulations, even though BiMPay offers more flexibility.
Um, to speak to that, address that specifically. So that's always been the case with every rail that we've always had. There have been always limits set at the rail level, but also what we call channel limits set at the individual channels. And those have always been regulated by the banks and the FIs. So BIMPay is no different in that regard.
Mhm. So BiMPay, so in other words, the central bank saying that a
So
transaction could be
this is,
50,000
and
really
it's
is really not the
typically
case.
risk based on client, tier client, corporate client. And so, sorry?
Mm. Now, I was saying that for the central bank to say to us that, well, a transaction can be capped at $50,000,
Yeah.
when there's no there's no financial institution that has $50,000, for example, as its cap, then that really is not going to be the case, is it?
Yeah. Well, I won't speak to all the financial institutions, but that's the maximum limit that's allowed. And Some financial institutions may allow it, but like I said, it's all based on a risk-based approach and an assessment of the individual real. But the one thing that the central bank has come out and said is that he expects to see more movement from the banks in terms of limits, etc. And so there, I know there's a discussion going on right now around that, but we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. Because at the end of the day,
Hmm.
we still have to safeguard our clients and ourselves. So if any bad actors get into the market by compromising somebody's device or whatever, then we want to still try and limit the exposure to the individual clients, right? Because if not, we'll be having a different discussion.
Yeah. Maybe pose this one final question to get your comment before we wrap up.
Sure.
Now, we've heard even through the information from the central bank that you don't need a bank account.
Hmm.
We've been hearing that for a while. Yet in your presentation, you said you need a bank account.
Yep.
So which is it really?
So you don't need to start the BiMPay wallet journey with a bank
Mm-hmm.
account. But to conclude the journey, you're going to have a bank account, meaning when you register with the wallet, you can
Mm.
choose whether you want to open an account or whether you want to link an existing account. But the only way to facilitate BiMPay transactions today is from an account that is domiciled at one of the commercial banks or the three participating credit unions. So that's the only way for it to work today. In future phases where they may then allow either the BiMPay wallet or other wallet providers to come in that actually allow you to store value in the wallet, so you can then move money from a bank account. Um, so you can, and so if you can, so it might allow you to then store value within the wallet, so you can move money from your bank account to the wallet and just spend that wallet amount by itself. But in um, today's phase of BiMPay, it's bank account to bank account. That's how it is.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think we're going to bring our session now to a close. Ken, you've shared a lot of information, but I'll say to you that you've left us with a few questions unanswered because, the issue of limits, at the end of the
Hmm.
day, the limit is really still dependent on your financial institution. So if CIBC's limit is $2,000 per day per consumer, that's it. Really. So
Hmm.
even though BIMPay may be talking about 50,000 or 100,000 or whatever, the fact is CIBC's limit is 2,000. And that seemed not to have changed. Right. So maybe rounds
Hmm.
two and phase three and all that, we'll see some changes to some of these rules. Maybe this is what is the intention, maybe of the bank, of the central bank. But as it is now, phase one, we're definitely seeing some limitations on what the customer can do relative to their financial institution. Am I correct in my assumption?
Well, not limitations. We have basically maintained parity with what existed before. So,
Right.
if you're building a road or building a new highway, the first thing you want to do is make sure that the underlying structure of the highway is sound. And then you say, okay, it was might have been 80 kilometers before. And so we're going to start at 80 kilometers. And then
Yeah.
as things adjust and we say, you know what, and look at usage patterns, etc., we may be able to increase it then to 100 kilometers an hour. But right now, we've just maintained parity with what existed. And so
Yeah.
that's what we've started with. And like you said, as the platform matures and grows and enhances, then we could
Mhm.
see, could be further developments. But like I said, it's always going to be based on risk.
Oh, risk, right. Okay. Well, I have a few persons in the chat telling me we need another session, and I quite agree because we definitely have to address the issue of limits, the issue of if bank accounts are really needed or not. There's clearly some disagreement there.
Oh, that one,
Yeah,
that one doesn't need a discussion. That's just the way it is.
that's just all right, all right. But the issue of security and so on. So for sure, we'll have a phase two. to this conversation, I will say to those online that they can maybe go to our YouTube channel and look for our webinar that was held last August, because we began the conversation then. In August
Mhm.
2025, we had the governor himself on our platform talking about BiMPay, for in preparation for the launch that was to have been March 2026. The launch did happen on June 12th. We have our colleague here, Kent from the CIBC Caribbean, and I'm sure that as we go on, we'll come back again for phase three now, this time, to continue the conversation to make sure that our MSME community in particular is well educated and sensitized about BiMPay. We know now that, folks, we are moving from 3 to 5 day payment periods to just a 10-second transaction period. That in and of itself is a good thing. That's a benefit to firms. It allows for some reconciliation to be done and record keeping to be done. That is always a good thing for small businesses. But we do appreciate that the issue of fees yet is yet to be sorted out. We'll await that, and hopefully we'll come back for phase three a little later on, as the whole issue of fees and so on has been sorted out. BiMPay, Barbados's instant payment system, the first of its kind, we are told, in the Eastern Caribbean. We've had the pleasure of engaging Kent Emile-Smith, the Senior Solutions Designer for Payments and Cards at the CIBC Caribbean. And he's shared a wealth of information with us today. The session has been recorded, so we'll do some editing and post this very soon on our YouTube channel and our website. So members, listen out. We'll let you know via email blast soon when you can go on and you can watch. And Ken, you've given us the PowerPoint as well that we can include and that persons can take a look at. So any
Yeah.
final thoughts from you as we bring our session to a close?
I just want to thank you first for the opportunity to be able to speak to the small business community. And the one thing I will encourage everyone to do is to think of how they can now move their businesses forward, leveraging BiMPay. Obviously, there are going to be some questions that you said that we can have follow-up discussions about, but how can I now start to position my business to take advantage of this digital payment ecosystem that is BiMPay? And how can I now then take my business forward, into leaps and bounds and grow in manners that I couldn't have done before? So that is my parting guidance and
Yes.
encouragement to the audience.
Thank you. So the parting shot, as they say in cricketing language, right? Thank you so much, Ken. And thanks
Okay. Thank
to
you.
members of the association, our partners and friends, for being with us for this July webinar. Listen out for another important topic as we come to you again for another members information session as we continue to educate and inform the MSME community about what's happening in the business environment here in Barbados and beyond. It has been a pleasure having you with us. Please, if you have not yet done so, click on that link that's in the chat and answer those questions for us so that we can have your feedback on today's exercise. Thank you again, Kent, and for all those over there at CIBC Caribbean for being with us today as we discuss BiMPay and helping small businesses to navigate this instant payment system. Bye-bye for now. God bless you all, and we'll see you on the next occasion. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you.